The last year has had its own dangers and heartaches, but this didn't mean that normal crime just went away. In fact, in a lot of areas, crime rates climbed as people were losing jobs and unable to care for their families. Today, we're gonna list cities where the rate of violent crimes were high and people feared for their safety. These are the most dangerous cities in the United States in 2021. Before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Number 10 on the list is Scranton, Pennsylvania. When many of us think of Scranton, we think The Office. The show was set here but mostly filmed in LA. The city has some amazing historical sites, like the Steamtown National Historic Site that has a great former rail yard with locomotives that are at least a century old, so it could be a really great city to visit. The only problem is the crime. Per 1,000 residents, the violent crime rate is about 15.7. This means that you have a 1 in 63 chance of being victim to a violent crime. Many of the crimes here are things like people fighting and things turning violent. For example, there was a shooting in December 2020 that seems to have been caused by people arguing. The next city on the list, and number 9, is Camden, New Jersey. Camden has done an amazing job in getting its crime rates down. There was a time that Camden was the most dangerous city in the United States. It is still the most dangerous city in New Jersey, and here you also have a 1 in 63 chance of being victimized. Camden has a lot going for it. Just the waterfront on its own has many things to do, like an adventure aquarium. They have great universities and programs. They disbanded their police force and then rebuilt it from scratch. So many people feel that this showed great success. There are others, though, that feel like many things are being kept quiet and not reported to keep the crime numbers down. The truth is, we don't know. What we do know is that the city has hotspots where drugs and violence numbers are particularly high, so if you do visit, make sure to avoid those areas. At 8 on the list is Alexandria in Louisiana. Laying in the very center of the state of Louisiana, this city has a history created by the plantations that surrounded the city. Even today, it is still an important part of distributing farm products. But Alexandria has one of the highest crime rates in America. Its violent crime rate is 15.8 per 1,000 residents. So this means you have a 1 in 63 chance of being victim of violent crime in this city. But when you add in property crimes, the numbers go much higher. Then you have a 1 in 9 chance of becoming a victim. Yet at the same time, many residents report to love living in the city. So I guess there are always trade-offs. Wilmington in Delaware is our number 7. Wilmington is actually a really beautiful city. It sits on the Christina and Delaware rivers, and much of the city has beautiful water views. There are also some stunning buildings in different styles of architecture, including Georgian. The people are reported to be friendly, and there's a lot to do. They have great restaurants and some amazing museums. On paper, it should be an idyllic city to live in if you don't take into account that the crime rate is 15.8 per 1,000 residents. On the other side, at least the state of Delaware is pretty safe when it comes to things like natural disasters. It is very unlikely to be hit by things like earthquakes or tornadoes. Number 6 is Danville, Illinois. This city had an important coal mining industry that helped create some of the first open-pit mining techniques. The city has tried to create beauty from these old mines by converting them into lakes. It also has 17 parks that it maintains to keep the city beautiful and give residents places to visit. Most of the residents here own the homes they live in, but the crime rate is high. Here you have a 1 in 56 chance of becoming a victim of violent crimes. The number of non-violent crimes, like property crimes, are higher than national rates here, too. Halfway through the list at number 5 is Monroe, Louisiana. Monroe is the city with the highest crime rate in Louisiana. Here you have a 1 in 55 chance of being the victim of a violent crime. The violent crime rate is 17.9 out of 1,000 residents. Yet Monroe also has a lot to offer. It has a lot to do if you are a nature lover. You can go and look at exotic animals in Purchase Gardens and Zoo, and at the Black Bayou Lake National Wildlife Refuge, there are many species to see, and it is even home to alligators. The city also has a museum that tells you all about the history of Coca-Cola and many other activities and attractions that might be enough to entice you to look past the high crime rate. Ranked at number 4 on our list of most dangerous cities in the US is Baltimore, Maryland. With a much higher crime rate than most of Maryland, Baltimore deserves its place on the list. With a 1 in 53 chance that you could become a victim of a violent crime, it is definitely a dangerous city. There are many areas of Baltimore that can be very dangerous. Gangs and drugs have taken over parts of Baltimore and make certain parts major crime hotspots. It's the leading city when it comes to robberies. So yes, for residents of those areas, Baltimore is not safe at all. On the other side, the charm city lives up to its name when it comes to tourists. Most tourists can visit the city's many attractions without any danger of becoming targets of crime. As long as you make sure to keep out of the crime hotspots, you should be safe. There are many attractions that keep tourists coming to the city. The National Aquarium is really stunning and one of the best in the world. The Oriole Park Park is beloved by many, and Inner Harbor provides a lot of distractions. The American Visionary Art Museum is another spot that is a must-see if you are in the area. If you are into history, the B&O Railroad Museum is a great way to spend your time, and then there is the Science Center and the Port Discovery Children's Museum that will keep the kids entertained for hours. Next at number 3 is Memphis, Tennessee. Known around the world for music, Memphis is the place where some of the biggest artists and even music genres had their start. Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, and B.B. King were just some of the legends that recorded music here. In fact, many out of the 97 first inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame come from or close to Memphis. Memphis is considered the birthplace of rock and roll and the home of the blues. It had a major influence on music genres like jazz, R&B, rap, soul, and gospel. So is it really any wonder that a lot of music lovers from all over the world want to come to the city and explore the musical heritage and the history? But is it safe? The violent crime rate in the area is one of the highest in all the United States. Here you have a 1 in 52 chance of becoming a victim of a violent crime. But it's important to note that many of the violent crimes here do result in homicide too. So for its residents, Memphis has become a very dangerous place. Still, it is relatively safe for tourists to visit here. There's a large police presence in areas that tourists frequent, like downtown Memphis and close to tourist attractions like Graceland, the home of Elvis. So if you do your homework and stay away from the more dangerous parts of the city while also keeping vigilant while exploring, then it should be fine for you to go visit, especially if it's always been a dream of yours. The number 2 most dangerous city in the United States is St. Louis in Missouri. In the last few years, St. Louis has been shifting back and forth with being second or first on the most dangerous city list in the US, but it currently falls at number 2. Here, residents have a 1 in 51 chance of becoming victims of violent crimes. The city lies next to the Mississippi River, and the most iconic picture you can take from St. Louis is the massive 630-foot Gateway Arch. St. Louis has some beautiful sights to see and explore. There are also some fantastic national parks around the city for visitors to enjoy the outdoors in. When you visit the city, just be sure to stay out of the most dangerous areas and keep on the lookout and be aware of your surroundings. Then you can still explore all the city has to offer while remaining safe. Number 1 on the list and the most dangerous city in the United States is the city of Detroit, Michigan. The Motor City has a rich and full history in the auto industry, as well as being known as the birthplace of Motown Records, the record label that gave us some of the world's most loved and cherished music records in the history of record making. Yet in the last few years, there have been more reports on the city's crime rates than on its accomplishments. There have been a lot of murders reported in the area, and the violent crimes are higher than in any other American city. The higher than average jobless rate that the city is experiencing has no doubt added to these numbers. Here, the crime rate is 19.5 per 1,000 residents. Most of the violence comes from gangs and drugs and is mostly localized to parts of the city. Downtown Detroit is mostly safe, except for petty crimes like pickpocketing that you have to be aware of and stay vigilant to avoid. There are some beautiful cities that have gone under a heavy weight of crime. Hopefully these numbers can be lowered and residents of these cities can start to feel safer. Hope you enjoyed our list of the most dangerous cities in the United States in 2021. See you next time!